Hello everyone, my name is Christian, welcome to my hobby blog. Today I'm with Will again, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be here.
We are going through kind of our favorite horror films to watch during this season of October. So I definitely intend on dipping into from the video yesterday. Well, I guess by the time this comes out, this won't be yesterday, but yesterday as in today recording on Friday, October 1st, day before my half half century birthday, which I'm dreading.
Quarter century.
Quarter century.
I'm at the half century.
half century for me. I'm dreading it, but I always love this month because I can revisit a lot of movies I already own, a lot of special features I've never dipped into, kind of get in the mood. And I've already watched my first one. It'll be a spoiler for next week, but it's Reanimator. I think it's a perfect start to this month because it's spooky, there's laughs, there's overacting, you have Jeffrey Combs, you have Dr. Hill, who enunciates every single word he has, and there's lots and lots of gore, which I love. So that's what I look for.
Yeah. Well, now I want to start October with Bride of Reanimator, which Brian Usna directed, and which has one of my all-time favorite lines when Jeffrey Combs says, "The only blasphemy is to wallow in insignificance."
I think he's the connective tissue of why these movies are so great. Because I remember
For
that.
sure.
Because you talked about that line in class,
Yes,
and it was on Amazon Prime, and I immediately watched it, and it was as awesome as he said. So.
It really is. That's a sequel that deserves to be in the canon of all-time great sequels, right up there with Godfather 2, Empire Strikes Back, all of that.
Gremlins 2.
Gremlins 2 for sure.
Probably the best sequel of all time.
Yeah. Okay, so what are you going to watch tonight?
I don't really know, because I'm going out and partying all night.
Oh, right.
I got friends taking me out for dinner, and then we're going to go, I guess, a little crazy. Because I haven't done that in 3 years because of COVID and all that, so I'm going all out. But tomorrow, I think I will be dipping into more atmospheric, maybe some vampire by Carl Dreyer, because that's probably the spookiest in terms of visually, and that's really only thing to watch for in that movie, because I love the camera tricks and the mist and the really spooky atmosphere throughout.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And it's 1932, so you have the classic title cards coming up.
Yeah.
And it really adds to the atmosphere, because usually I can't stand title cards. I haven't seen enough silent films to get over it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it adds to the spookiness, just like Nosferatu. It's really awesome.
Speaking of, I think I'm actually going to start off with Nosferatu. I've got a new edition, DVD only, unfortunately, but this is an edition put out by a musician that I've been friends with going on close to 30 years now. Argyle Goolsby from the horror punk band Blitzkid. He put out an edition with a documentary that interviews Tom Savini. He made and in the documentary he travels to the shooting locations, does a commentary track. So that's going to be my first film for Spooktober, is actually watching all the special features and listening to the commentary by Argyle Goolsby of Blitzkid fame. He also composed a new score for it. It's a really good edition. You can get it from his website. Just look up Blitzkid, and that's going to be my first one. I actually haven't seen Nosferatu in close to a decade, so it'll be fun to watch again.
I just watched it like a month or two ago, not thinking about the fact that October was coming up real soon. And because we have a Plex, which is where you can like take screen recordings and upload them, and it'll match it to a movie.
Oh.
So like, my brother actually had a 6,000 movie hard drive that he gave to my dad for Christmas.
Wow.
And so we uploaded that to Plex software on the computer, and it got all the subtitles, all the actor and actresses like lists, like everything. And so we were going through that. Just I only have like 20 movies that I'm interested, because it is a lot of like old movies. Like, I'm trying to think of like that old person type of movie. Was like really hard for me to watch.
those half-century people.
Yeah. But I'm mostly thinking like the Sinbad movies was like a little cheesy.
Like, like the Ray Harryhausen stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I like Ray Harryhausen, but like the really like cheesy stuff is on there too. But one of them was Nosferatu, so I list by date and it starts right there. I think Frankenstein maybe earlier.
Oh, okay.
But that's like 1 or 2, so I was going one by one. And Nosferatu was like, I know you can watch it on YouTube, but it's really awful looking. And the edition we had is a little better. Mm-hmm. But I know it was a recent restoration, I feel like.
Wow.
Like someone has plans for a 4K, hopefully soon.
4K Nosferatu.
I need to see the makeup and the paintbrush marks.
Yeah.
Because resolution covers that up. Looks amazing.
So it sounds like we've got a pretty good start to the month with some silent classics. I always like to start out Octobers with early horror movies from the 30s and 40s. I think this year I want to watch a movie that Todd Browning did. Todd Browning directed the original Dracula, but he's probably best known for Freaks.
My favorite.
Yeah. I'm going to watch a movie he did, a second movie that he did with Bela Lugosi called Mark of the Vampire, which is basically a remake of his famous Lost movie, London After Midnight, with Lon Chaney, a movie that remains lost, but has a lot of famous stills that you can find online. And Mark of the Vampire is kind of a horror comedy. Bela Lugosi is only in a few scenes, but every scene that he's in is quite good. I like Mark of the Vampire a lot. Basically, I can't say anything about it without spoiling it. But that should be enough, right? Todd Browning, Bela Lugosi, horror comedy. Check it out. Mark of the Vampire.
Is that a
1934?
Is that a Scream Factory release? I feel like I've seen a Blu-ray of it floating around. Unless I'm thinking like Crypt of the Vampire, because there's so many movies with that kind of namings. Like
I only have it on DVD, so I feel like if there were a Blu-ray, I would have already gotten it. But now I'll have to go check after we finish.
Yeah. So just to stay on that, the horror comedy aspect, I don't know any from like today that I've seen. Because I guess Return of the Living Dead I would count as like my favorite one, my favorite zom-com, if you will. Because I've seen it like 20 times now in the like maybe 5 years.
Yeah, that's actually our next film in the zombie class that I'm teaching right now. So I'm excited to show that and talk about it. Well, are you saying you've never seen Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein? Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy? Abbott and Costello meet Boris Karloff, the Killer? Oh man, gotta check those out.
But I think my favorite horror comedy is probably Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. That is so funny.
Seen that. That's in my Shudder queue, so I guess I'll have to do it.
It's probably the hardest I've laughed, and I mean, I don't laugh often, but that movie definitely got it out of me.
Okay.
And the beginning, like, just sold me instantly. It's your typical 70s, 80s road trip college teen horror movie where we're following them. They go and get beer at the local gas station. They see two weird, creepy country bumpkins, and they're looking intimidating. One of them is literally holding a scythe for some reason. I guess to really sell that concept. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. And they have your typical horror movie music playing while they're having this, talking about these people, and they're like being weird looking. And then the camera switches and like goes back to behind the supposed creepy people. They're like, why is she looking at me? She's so cute. And it turns into like a buddy comedy movie with the supposed killers. And when they get to the cabin, because every movie requires that in that genre, it just goes crazy. It's like Evil Dead, but like without the supernatural. And it's just all accidents, all the deaths.
This sounds good.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
I watched it on a whim because a couple years ago I let my dad choose, then me, then just so we weren't all making fun of my own picks every night. He chose that, and I was like, because it was on Netflix, and it was new at the time, 2013 I think it came out. It was like 2015 we saw it, and I was sold. So.
Okay.
It has a lot of the tropes of the horror genre too, which is fun to see how they subvert it.
Evil. All right, I'm gonna put that on my list too.
But Return of the Living Dead is also awesome. So.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm a huge fan also of Return of the Living Dead 3, another Brian Usna movie, which is a movie that is funny, but also has some really deep themes to it and some serious stuff as well. And we always skip Return of the Living Dead 2 with good reason, because it's not very good. However, since it's been many, many years since I've seen Return of the Living Dead 2, I just picked up a copy. This was directed by Kevin Wiederhorn, who also made Meatballs 2, if you like summer camp movies that feature an alien. And I'm kind of looking forward to watching this. Like Halloween 2, most of it is set in a hospital. And like Halloween 2, it had a troubled production. But also like Halloween 2, even though it's not that great, it does have some sequences that are absolutely amazing. So Return of the Living Dead 2 is on my list for this month. I'm trying to make this month about films that I either haven't seen in a really long time, or in a couple instances haven't seen at all but have been meaning to. So that's my next pick.
So to continue that, I have both of my giant box sets of Alfred Hitchcock that I'm finally going through.
Nice.
Because I got the Blu-ray box set from you because I was sick of Driller Killer. And that's actually one I kind of want to rewatch now that it's been like 4 or 5 years. And just kind of see if I still hate it. Because I see a lot of potential. So I don't know anything about it behind the scenes. So maybe if I knew more, I would like it. But I got that Blu-ray set, which I have one more movie, which is Vertigo, to watch. And then I have that Velvet DVD box set, which they just upgraded Blu-ray, and I wasn't going to get that.
Right.
I don't like Hitchcock as a person. I think he's very abusive and like awful behind the scenes. All the stories that you can read on him convinced me like, okay, I'll just watch it. And try to get that out of my head while I'm watching. It's kind of like watching Alice in Wonderland for me, where I can't really watch that anymore, knowing the conditions that, whatever her name is, the main...
Oh, I was thinking of when because I'm nearly half a century old, when people say Alice in Wonderland, I think of the Disney animated movie. You're probably talking about the Johnny Depp one, right? With the Tim Burton.
No, The Wizard of Oz. That's
you're talking about The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. I get those mixed. Yeah, I can't watch Wizard of Oz. Really.
Because of all the stuff that Judy Garland was going through? Yeah.
I feel bad for her anytime I watch it.
Yeah, it was a tough life.
Thankfully, I haven't seen that since I was like 8, and I loved it then, so...
That's still a good
context.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm trying to get through that Alfred Hitchcock Velvet set, because it's a lot of his stuff that I don't think anyone knows of. At least in terms of, like, outside of Psycho, Rear Window, The Birds, which is okay. I definitely prefer Killing Birds more, even though that has nothing to do with birds.
I'm a
But
big fan of Frenzy.
I haven't seen that.
Check out Frenzy. It has some really disturbing stuff in it, but it also has some of the best Hitchcock comedy, and the juxtaposition is pretty uncomfortable, actually. I'm not. I don't worship at the feet of Hitchcock, but I do really like Frenzy. So
I think it's on that box set, so
yeah, it is.
I'm excited for that. I'm a huge fan of Rear Window. I mean, no matter how much I hate the guy, I think that's my favorite movie.
Wow.
In the whole like genre. So
Yeah.
the whole one set thing I love just in general. So anytime I see a movie like that, I'm always comparing it to Rear Window
Oh.
and seeing if they're hitting it right.
Well, in that case, I'm gonna switch up the movie I was about to recommend, and I'm going to recommend a movie that is Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window crossed with Bigfoot, and it is called Abominable.
I've heard of it actually.
It is awesome. It has Tiffany Shepis, who is my favorite modern scream queen. It is, yeah, a guy with a broken leg out in a cabin in the middle of the woods, adjacent to a rental house where a bunch of young people come to get drunk and have sex with each other. He, at first, is kind of doing a peeping Tom thing with his binoculars, but then sees Bigfoot. And he's got to try to warn everybody that Bigfoot's coming. And it's a lot of fun. It's really well made. It's very competently made. Highly recommend it. Abominable. Tiffany Shepis is great in it. If you don't know who Tiffany Shepis is, you need to get familiar with her work. 2006 is when it came out, and let's see, who's the other main guy? Matt McCoy, who you might know from the Police Academy movies, and Paul Gleason, who's the teacher from The Breakfast Club, and Lance Henriksen is in it, of course. Like any self-respecting monster movie, it's got to have Lance Henriksen. So, Abominable, that's going on my list.
Well, I have to follow that up, a creature feature, if you will, with Suburban Sasquatch, which I'm begging Vinegar Syndrome to release on the Homegrown Horrors, because it perfectly fits that label, and they have they've got 2 volumes left. Like, just please, 6 movies, like, they could inhabit one of those slots. It's shot on video in like the late 2000s, made by some guy in like Pennsylvania who got his family together and filmed the most incompetent creature feature movie ever.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. And like, I've seen Winter Beast. Actually, I've seen the entirety of Volume 1. And Winter Beast is the best one in that selection, I think. And it's like 3 levels below that in terms of competency. Like, it is so bad, but so funny. He uses Microsoft Paint, like, stickers for, like, police cars.
Oh, wow.
And there's a scene where Sasquatch picks it up and is shaking it. And it's just a 2D while he's in, like, a gorilla suit. And they actually made a giant mold of its penis, because there was going to be a scene involving that, but they backed out. But they kept it.
What cowards.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. That would have tipped it over to the best film of all time, in my opinion. But, like, the whole movie, it has it on, so it's running around terrorizing, you know, the neighborhood and suburbia. So you have all these... And there's a weird scene where they're trying to show, like, extravagance. And so they have, like, a crystal chandelier, like a minivan, and it's an older white woman eating a hot dog. And that's supposed to show... like extravagance and wealth. It's a really bizarre movie, and I'm so sad I had to get rid of my DVD because I watched it so much.
You know, in a future episode, we should do the entire genre of Bigfoot movies, because there's
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's enough to fill a whole month of watch parties for sure. All right, so we've got two Bigfoot movies this October. Abominable and Suburban Sasquatch.
Is yours shot on video? Or is it
No, mine
good?
is professionally made with name stars. Um, but the next one I'm going to recommend is another Ken Wiederhorn movie. So I've mentioned. Well, I did not intend for this to be.
I didn't know you were an expert
a
on this
Ken
guy.
Wiederhorn retrospective, but Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and I already mentioned he did Meatballs too. He did one of the first, if not the first, Nazi zombie movie,
Ooh.
Shockwaves, which Blue Underground puts out in Blu-ray. And it stars Peter Cushing and John Carradine.
Ooh.
Quite a lot of fun. 1977. And yeah, these people land on an island and run afoul of a shipwrecked German warship, which is full of Nazi zombies. Hilarity ensues. It's actually, believe it or not, it's not actually a comedy. There are a couple comedic moments, but it's kind of an homage to Hammer films with Peter Cushing. Obviously, you have the opportunity to do that. But that's the kind of style that the movie's going for, that Hammer style. And it's a pretty fun watch. So that's my next one.
So I was going to say Dead Snow definitely has humor.
Yes.
From what I remember.
A Norwegian Nazi zombie movie. So many great Nazi zombie movies. Lest we forget Jess Franco's blood-sucking Nazi zombies, which is also called Oasis of the Zombies. But why would you call something Oasis of the Zombies when you could call it blood-sucking Nazi zombies? That's my preferred title. But yeah, Dead Snow is a lot of fun. I haven't seen its sequel, but I plan to at some point. Maybe not this month, though.
I'm trying to think. So I'm trying to piggyback in terms of like themes, but I think my favorite zombie movie is definitely Train to Busan. Like outside the classic like Romero and Lucia Fulci stuff, but like that movie, like I love the South Korean thriller genre, and mixing that with zombies was just the smartest thing. And it's such a shame they never made a sequel.
They did make a sequel.
They never.
Oh, you don't recognize
it has like
it?
2 out of 10 on like IMDb. I haven't even looked at it. I saw that rating and I was like, nope, I'll pass.
Well, the director, whose name escapes me at the moment, was an animator. Train to Busan was his first live-action film, and if you know that going into it, you really notice the compositions, especially of the arrangement of the zombies on the train.
Oh yeah.
Very beautifully rendered, and kind of could only come from the eye of an animator. Yeah, Train to Busan is a movie that I really, really like, while at the same time I resent it. As the father of daughters, I feel like the movie is unfair in the way it manipulates your emotions.
That's my favorite part of the South Korean genre.
Yeah, well, I have to admit that it twice now it has elicited tears from my eyes. And yeah, it's a great, great zombie film. Well, another one then, last zombie movie for me, but one that is one of my favorite all-time movies of any genre, and also one that I haven't seen in a long time, Della Morte del More, Cemetery Man, starring Rupert Everett, before he became a star, based on a comic series and directed by Michele Soavi, who was kind of an apprentice of both Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci.
Oh wow.
He was an actor. He's the guy who gets his brains pulled out of his head in City of the Living Dead. by Fulci. He had directed a giallo called Stage Fright and a possession movie starring Asia Argento called The Church in the late 80s, early 90s. And then came Della Morte del More, which I think has a claim to being the greatest or the ultimate. How about this? I'll say it's the ultimate Italian zombie film. It's very funny, it's very philosophical, and yeah, it's fantastic. And actually influenced by an early Todd Browning silent film called The Unknown, starring Lon Chaney and Joan Crawford. I can't say how it inspires the movie because if I do, it's a major spoiler. All I will say is that if you manage to watch Cemetery Man and Todd Browning's The Unknown, you will be surprised, pleased, disturbed. It's a great movie. Big fan. Cemetery Man.
Well, to go off your double feature idea, because I always love watching somewhat disconnected movies and seeing how they connect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy when directors say, I'm inspired by this, and it's like really easy to make a double feature based on what they say. But I think one that was a shock for me was combining House and Dawn of the Dead by George Romero.
Oh.
And watching it in one night, because it's very colorful on each side. It's very bizarre at times, mostly in House. It's the same year. It's the same, I guess, visual style of using like ketchup for the blood, or at least ravioli juice. I can't find a better way to describe it. It's like that sickly looking blood. It has a lot of fun editing, and I know George Romero's movies are made in the editing. And House is really, once the kills start going, especially in the piano scene, I think that's when they are very at the closest, the two directors. And
that's a good double feature.
The concept in general of each director just wanting to make a fun movie, because it was a lot of like just shoot and go for Dawn of the Dead. And in terms of planning for House, it was the daughter being asked by the director, who was the father, like, hey, this thing scares me. What if I was looking at my mirror and it looked back at me? Okay, we're gonna make a scene off that. I had a dream the piano ate me. Okay, we're gonna make a scene on that. And just the chaos of the behind the scenes for each movie meshes them well together. I haven't done it yet, but I definitely want to once I get my 4K Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because I just want to test my theory that would be a great double feature.
That sounds like a good time. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me go back to Cemetery Man again. This should be a triple feature because the other movie that is a big influence on it is Vertigo.
Ooh.
Hitchcock, in fact, it quotes several shots from Vertigo, including the famous shot of the camera going into the spiral of Kim Novak's hair bun. So yeah, Della Morte del More, The Unknown, and Vertigo as a triple feature.
That spans a lot of years.
Gotta do it. Yeah, it does. That's why I say Cemetery Man is the ultimate Italian zombie movie. Let's see, what's my next one? Oh, you gotta have a vampire movie at some point in October. And so I want to bring back, as you know, I just finished editing a book about Tobe Hooper, American Twilight, The Cinema of Tobe Hooper, available wherever you buy your books. So I think my...
I'll leave a link.
I think my vampire movie for this month is going to be Salem's Lot, which deserves to be ranked right up there with Texas Chainsaw Massacre as one of Tobe Hooper's best films. This was a television miniseries. Very little blood, but it is incredibly scary. As a miniseries, it runs about 3.5 hours long. But you can watch this movie in one sitting and not get tired of it. It's so engrossing. If you've never seen Salem's Lot before, I highly recommend you watch it. It has a great cast. You can enjoy some great 70s fashion, trashing. But the atmosphere is so great. And if you're a Stephen King fan and maybe have read the book Salem's Lot, you'll notice that the adaptation, while it does change some things and leave some things out, is very faithful to the themes of the original book. I think it ranks right up there with the very best horror movies of the 70s. So Salem's Lot, that's my vampire movie this month.
It's funny, because the only thing I know about Salem's Lot is that one of my favorite bands, Ghost, did a redoing of that poster. I'm trying to pull it up here, but for one of the small singles they've never done called Crucified, I try to make it bigger.
Yeah.
With the Papa Emeritus, which is the mascot.
Uh-huh.
But I've seen a few clips, and I know, I thought it was just a movie, not a whole mini-series.
Yeah.
Because now I want to watch it.
Yes, it's funny as you watch it, you can tell where the commercial breaks are, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because, it's a film, right? This is one of the late 70s is when these mini-series and made-for-TV movies craze began to really happen, and so many of today's top directors started out that way, like Steven Spielberg famously with Duel, for example. And so the pacing is really interesting because about every 15 or 20 minutes, there's got to be a commercial break. But watching but watching it on a Blu-ray, you don't actually have the break for commercials. You just have this like kind of mini cliffhanger moment every 20 minutes or so. But that being said, the pacing is still, as I mentioned, such that you don't realize that you've sat through a 3.5 hour movie. It's not like when I sit through the Avengers and I'm just like, please get to the fight and let's go home.
I will say that's how I felt with It, the original.
Yes, this is
that one's so bad. I can't stand that movie.
Salem's Lot is not only better than the original It miniseries, it's also way better than the new It movies. So I put my personal guarantee on that.
I never got the hype around It, especially the original one. So I read the book and I loved it, and I was like, okay, I never have to read that again, because it's like
1,000-some pages.
Yeah, it's insane. I actually read it last October. Is what I focused on, was getting one whole novel in.
Yeah.
And I read that, and I watched the original movie right after that, and I was like, they're kind of following it, but they're missing so much, and it's all really awful humor.
Yeah.
And, like, Tim Curry is the only connecting tissue with that movie, and I think that's the only reason it even stayed in the mind of everyone.
Tim Curry is great casting for Pennywise. I'll definitely give it that much.
But my choices, I have two for vampires. One is one I can't really speak about because I don't remember much, but I remember loving it, which is Thirst by Park Chan-wook, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
That one is probably my favorite of his, because I kind of can't stand the sympathy movies, except for the third one, which I loved, about the community coming back to torture this person. That was an interesting twist on the rest of the series. But
yeah, that's a good movie.
I don't even think it has a Blu-ray yet, or if it does, it's really bare bones.
Yeah, it does have a bare bones Blu-ray.
So Arrow, get to it. You just did Two Sisters, or Twin Sister, whatever that movie is. Tale of Two Sisters, which they need to get on Region A, because that movie's insane. It's like a modern day House, in my opinion. but
Yeah, I
with
love
a
that movie.
touch of Takashi Miike. But my second one is What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. I don't know why, but that
Yeah.
movie's hilarious to me. Just
I
that
know
New
why, because
Zealand.
it's hilarious. I actually.
It's all these parody movies I like. That's the only comedy I can.
What We Do in the Shadows, fantastic. Taika Waititi, Jermaine Clement. That's a. Yeah, everybody add the second. That's your second vampire movie. And also the show. Do you watch the show?
I haven't, but everyone's been telling me to watch
It
it.
is fantastic. Fantastic. There's 3 seasons so far. That is one of the funniest shows around right now, I would say for sure. Okay, well my next movie is not funny at all. It's actually pretty spooky, and very tense. It's directed by Jack Shoulder, who has done a lot of good sequels that people kind of discover later. Most notably, Nightmare on Elm Street 2. He also did The Hidden. He did Wishmaster 2.
Ooh.
I like the Wishmaster. But this movie is Alone in the Dark, which just got a nice Blu-ray release from Scream Factory. It's got, check out this cast. You've got Jack Palance, Martin Landau, Donald Pleasance, Dwight Schultz, who plays Mad Murdock on the A-Team, and they are a group of patients at an asylum who escape and track down the psychiatrist who had them committed and terrorize him and his family.
Nice.
It is.
And is it Donald Pleasance playing the psychologist? Seems like a role where
I'm
he
not
would
saying,
just sit down.
I'm not saying who's who. This is 1982, so everybody's still pretty young. Well, relatively. It is. It's got some bizarre humor in it, dark humor, but the atmosphere of the movie and the editing really ratchet up the tension. It's a fun watch. Alone in the Dark.
I always think of the video game that came out in like 2008.
Oh,
Time.
it is not that.
So I know they try to make a movie.
No, that movie, that is a Yui Bowl movie. We stay away from those. That Alone in the Dark with Tara Reid and Christian Slater must be avoided at all costs. It is not fun. It is not good. It is not so bad that it's good. It's just
it's UFA
bad.
Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't make good movies.
He does not make good movies.
I saw Postal and I was like, okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a miserable horror movie to recommend. It's not as, I guess, spooky, but I think Killing of a Sacred Deer nails that Hitchcock feel. And I love the cinematography where someone's walking down a hallway and it like the camera is like upside down, then it goes up.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff. Yorgos Lanthimos is a lot of fun to watch his movies and try to figure out what is going on. I finally get The Lobster. I finally rewatched it for like the 3rd or 4th time. I finally like it.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's very dry. That's the issue, is that so, like, I'm a dry humor kind of guy.
Yeah.
But that is just like a whole nother level of dry that I didn't get it. Like, that's the whole joke, is the whole situation. But Killing of a Sacred Deer is just, like, awful the entire time in terms of, like, making you want to throw up because you're so tense, which is my favorite kind of thriller.
Yeah.
I mean, every South Korean thriller movie is like that. Chaser, I Saw the Devil.
Oh, you know I love Chaser.
I love the South Korean genre.
Yeah.
And I wish Bong Joon-ho kind of gets there, of that, like, tense. But I think I Saw the Devil really goes deep into the sleaze.
Yeah.
And, like, just making you feel sick by what you're watching. I gotta rewatch those movies. There needs to be good Blu-rays. Because they're not. Era 4444, get to it.
Yeah.
That would be a great company.
Well, I think I mentioned in the last episode that I was on that they're about to do Centipede Horror, which is a movie that if you want to feel sick, that's a good one.
Is it better than
I'm looking
Centipede or Human Centipede?
I wouldn't compare the two. Really, the only thing they have in common is the name. But as you know, I actually have a fondness for the Human Centipede movies.
I like them too. I think the first one is legitimately good.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think it's the second one where it became like a real movie and a guy was obsessed with it that I was like, oh no. And it got like really sleazy, but I was also like 13 when it came out and I saw it.
I have to give the Human Centipede 2 credit. That is the, as a person who seeks out horror movies and movies that make you uncomfortable, that is the only time I've ever seen a movie in a theater where I thought, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I thought that I was going to, and I ended up making it. I ended up staying the whole time and watching the whole movie without having to leave. But that's the only movie I've ever seen in the theater that made me question whether I could continue watching it.
That ending is still so shocking to me when she gives birth to the baby and smashes its head.
Well, spoiler.
If you haven't seen it yet, like, that's just the tip of the iceberg for that movie. I haven't seen the third one, but they have a box set by, like, Second Sight. I don't know why they made a whole box set. They need to make a solid box set first, in my opinion.
Don't they have one?
They do, but they have no special features. That's my issue.
I see. I don't really want.
Give me 1 hour documentaries on each movie and how they did all the traps and how they made it up.
I don't care.
I'm actually not rewatching them this year. I know last year you kind of made fun of me that I took an entire day to watch them all.
And I'm sure I said this last year as well. I do like part 6.
That's the funniest one.
That's the funny one.
I talked about that in the video, my 25 or so Halloween movies to watch. I was like, watch 6, because the entire series is, oh, you murdered a child, oh, you did this, you did that. And the 6th movie is like, you're an insurance agent.
You denied my claim.
And that movie gives me the energy to finish the series. Because watching that movie is just a treat. Like, I might just watch that one this year, just to keep it consistent every year. But
yeah, that's. I don't know. We'll see.
I haven't seen the new one yet. Although Chris Rock and Sam Jackson being involved gives me hopes. But I haven't heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gotta go in with my normal, very forgiving eyes. Watching that movie.
Now let's see. I've got time to make one more recommendation. And I think I'm going to do a movie that I've always loved, but I haven't seen in a really, really long time. And I have to say that a good Blu-ray edition does not exist yet, but word is that the director is working on high-definition restorations of all of his early films, and hopefully that will come out soon. And I'm referring to Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, aka Brain Dead, one of the great splatter comedies of all time. And I'm very hopeful that there'll be a set with Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles, and Dead Alive very soon. Excuse me, I'm getting over a non-COVID cold. Dead Alive, if you've never seen it, then you really, A, need to make sure that you get the unrated edition, and B, recognize that whether it's a DVD or Blu-ray, it doesn't look great. But it's the story of a young man who has a very unhealthy relationship with his mother, who falls in love, and whose mother eats his love's dog. And there's more. A kung fu fighting priest, a zombie baby, and one of the all-time gooeyest Oedipal complexes you'll ever see on the screen. Dead Alive. It's a movie that I've seen many, many times, but it's been so long since I've seen it that I think I want to make it part of this year's Spooktober.
Yeah, I remember watching that because I was a huge Lord of the Rings fan growing up. I saw it, the last two at least, in theaters. I didn't see Fellowship because I was 4 years old when that came out in theaters. My parents didn't know anything about it, and because of the Urukai, I guess, they deemed it inappropriate for 4-year-old me. But little did they know how I would grow up with all these video nasties and all these different movies. But I found that movie through Peter Jackson. I remember I was like, they gave this guy Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
And I've seen most of his movies now, and for like 5 years now we've been hearing like, oh, he's working on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, and at one point Vinegar Syndrome was in talks, or Arrow, because after the Jodorowsky box set, I think is when someone like kind of leaked it, and that was like a year or two ago.
Well, I hope that this podcast will ignite interest and pressure on the powers that be to get this out here. Yeah, people forget how good Peter Jackson was as a low-budget exploitation filmmaker. Bad Taste, which is about an alien invasion, sort of, is just so gleefully gross. I mean, really, he's the Sam Raimi of New Zealand, and vice versa. Meet the Feebles, puppets doing heroin. What more do you need to know? And then some of his early Hollywood movies, which I think are kind of auditions for Lord of the Rings. Heavenly Creatures, which is a great sort of murder drama featuring a young pre-stardom Kate Winslet, and The Frighteners, which, bringing us full circle, features Jeffrey Combs as a paranormal investigator, with Michael J. Fox as like a psychic ghost hunter. And this was a movie. If you've never seen The Frighteners, check it out, because this is a movie where Peter Jackson was really experimenting with the limits of CGI, and you can really see what he was preparing himself for, and all the CGI artists at the New Zealand studio, what he was preparing himself for with regard to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And there's also some really well done CGI work in Heavenly Creatures. So, hell, just watch all of Peter Jackson's early work this month. Might as well.
They're really good. I really like Bad Taste. That house explosion scene is incredible. I think they actually blew up a house because that looked really well rigged.
He did not have CGI at that time, yeah.
But like, I think the final movie that I would recommend to continue that sickening splatter gore, I guess, would be Society. That would be a really good one, just to close out.
So we started with Brian Usna and Jeffrey Combs, and we end with Brian Usna and Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs should have been in it.
Yeah.
But that movie, I remember the first time I watched it, I kept hearing go in without anything, like any knowledge. And I was like, okay, and I was watching, I was like, this is weird. And like, Billy Warlock is doing his stuff. Billy
Warlock owns that movie.
He's hilarious. And then that scene at the end happens.
Yeah. The shunting.
That just made me want to throw up for the rest of the movie. And I can't even talk about it more because I don't want to spoil it, because again, going knowing as little as possible. But I will say I was a little upset when we had it in class and you showed it before we watched it. I remember I was
right.
like, oh no.
Yeah, that was a real screw up on my part.
Haven't looked at you the same. Not really, obviously.
Well, that is a great movie to end on, especially. I don't want to get political or anything.
There's some good themes in there.
But currently we're wrestling with economic questions about the 1% and the rest of us, and the society certainly has a lot to say about the wealthy. That's all I'm saying. It makes some points.
You will become a good part of society, or a good contributor.
That's right.
I think is what they say.
Well, I say this lovingly, Christian, to quote Billy Warlock in Society. See you, butthead.